Hello and welcome to LA Currents. I'm Anita Bennett. Well, Juneteenth marks a special day in U.S. history. On June 19, 1865, the last group of enslaved people in the country were freed. Joining us to discuss this freedom celebration here in the city of Los Angeles, as well as some of the other key issues affecting the city right now, is Councilmember Marqueece Harris-Dawson. Thank you so much for being here.
It's good to be here. Thank you.
Yeah, once again, we do it again.
Yes, there it is, every June.
Okay, so Juneteenth has been a federal holiday for a few years now, and it's also a state holiday. So in your opinion, why is it important that we continue to celebrate this day?
Well, it's an important story to remember. It's part of the American story. It's part and parcel of the American story. Slavery is something that really isn't recognized in any other formal way as a part of U.S. history, and it's such a big part of who we are as a country and who we've been, and really vestiges of which we are still trying to overcome to this day. And then there are the particularities of the story of Juneteenth that just shows the struggle and working through something. And so, you know, we here in Los Angeles, we wish homelessness would go away tomorrow and we could just have solved that problem. The story of Juneteenth teaches that, you know, even after a war, after the government sent several people to Texas who didn't make it all the way to Texas for some reason.
So the word that about the Emancipation Proclamation did not make it to Texas.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It didn't make it to Texas shows that you just got to stick with something. You got to stick with it over time, especially big problems. And so that's an important lesson that Americans, Angelenos, and everybody, frankly, around the world can use in their day-to-day life.
It really is incredible that it's been over 200 years and yet we still are dealing with some of these struggles.
That's right. That's right. You see it in every walk of American life. You know, you look at the people of African descent and you say, hey, what's going on there? And then you look at the history and you understand that that's how this country started. Mm-hmm. It started really with slavery, as President Obama called it, as the original sin. Mm-hmm. And we continue to try to work our way out of that generation after generation.
It's really interesting, the original sin. So, and you mentioned homelessness. We are definitely going to come back to that. But I want to talk more about Juneteenth. How are you celebrating the holiday?
Well, you know, we have several celebrations, formal celebrations now throughout the county of Los Angeles, certainly a lot here in the city. You know, I grew up before, you know, Juneteenth was something that was recognized by mainstream society and certainly not the government. And so school was usually out by that time of year and, you know, you just have informal barbecues, picnics, so on and so forth. And so there will be a lot of that as well. Mm-hmm.
You went to an HBCU. Tell us about what school and did they mark Juneteenth there?
You know, I went to Morehouse College in Atlanta, Georgia's historically black college, the college Martin Luther King graduated from. Very proud of it, but school was usually out by the time Juneteenth came, so we'd get out of school in May, so there was no formal recognition of Juneteenth because, you know, that first day, that last final, I was on a plane back to LA for the summer.
Yeah, I went to Howard and we didn't really recognize Juneteenth either. So can you give me some specifics? Is there anything happening in the city of LA to mark Juneteenth?
There are lots of things happening in the city to celebrate Juneteenth. Folks obviously will be in Leimert Park as we are every year, but there'll be a number of celebrations. If you look at my Instagram feed at MHDCD8, you can see a full calendar of events for young people, for seniors, for the full family across the city of LA.
Mm-hmm. For people who want to give back for Juneteenth, instead of celebrating, doing something for the community, what would you recommend they do?
Well, you know, there's always our local organizations and our local churches. Everybody's doing something. And so there is the small sort of anonymous gift if you just want to take clothes. You know, when you see people living on the street in your community, know that they always need underwear and socks. That is the number one request of people living on the street. So there's that, but there's your local church is always doing something and your local community organization as well.
So if you want to give underwear, socks, a donation, the best way to do that? You
can do that through Hopix, which is our organization. If you just look up hopix.org, you can find that organization. You can contact our council office as well.
Mm-hmm. Let's go back to Morehouse. Why did you go to an HBCU?
Well, I was an activist as a teenager and I wanted to learn activism. I looked at all the schools. Worked out that Martin Luther King was a graduate of Morehouse College. I figured he knew a little something about activism, so I sought it out and understood the tradition fighting to build a better world for our people, but also for every human being on the face of the planet. And so that's the school I chose, and it was a great experience.
And you took that out into the world after college. You became a community organizer.
Became a community organizer, found the Community Coalition. They were working on nuisance liquor stores and tobacco and alcohol billboards near schools, and the over-incarceration and criminalization of young Black and brown people. And so I got to cut my teeth in a very exciting political scene where lots of challenging things were happening, but those challenges presented opportunities.
Mm-hmm. Were there any specific things that you learned at Morehouse that helped you when you decided to get into politics?
Well, there's a lot. There's far too many to name, but certainly that the point of society is the human family. That the reason why we have cities, towns, states, countries, groups, organizations, churches, clubs, all of it is to benefit the individual human and all the members of the human family. And so that whatever we do, it ought to forward the cause of humanity. And so that really is the guiding value that shapes the work that I do as a community organizer, certainly as a member of the City Council.
Mm-hmm. In terms of giving back, how do we use the momentum from Juneteenth, this positive energy, and take it into the future in terms of addressing homelessness?
Well, I think it's a great story. I think it is at one level, it's a sad story that people imagine being a slave and you have to stay a slave 2 years longer than was legally required because the news didn't get to you. Incredibly tragic, but also triumphant, right? Imagine you're living there and you think there's no end in sight. This is never going to get better. We're never going to get people off of the streets. We're never going to have people make a wage that they can afford to live in a decent house in this city. And then suddenly things change. And they change because people keep pushing and people keep hope for a better future.
But hope is not going to resolve homelessness.
No, work resolves homelessness. And sometimes when the bed feels really good or you get discouraged, hope is the thing that makes you keep working instead of quitting.
Mm-hmm. We actually have some really good news about you. You are going to be the next president of the Los Angeles City Council. That is huge. You will only be the second African American council president in history. How did this process come about?
Well, we knew we'd need a new city council president at the end of the year because Council President Krikorian will come to the end of his time on the council. It was important to many of us on the council, including Council President Krikorian, that we not have an abrupt transition. He had an abrupt transition, so one day he wasn't council president, the next day he was, and the old president had already gone. And so we wanted to set up a process, one, that held the council together as much as possible, because there's tremendous ideological diversity on the council at this time. So we want to hold the council together and have operational unity so we can get this business of the city done. But also we wanted to leave time so that there was a good down ramp and on ramp to the leadership of the council.
And when do you officially assume the position?
So September 20th is the date that the Council President Krikorian will gracefully hand over the gavel and we'll be on. The great thing about that is Council President Krikorian will still be there for a couple months in case there are any bumps in the road or things that we hadn't anticipated. We'll get the benefit of his experience.
Mm-hmm. Are you feeling any particular pressure because this is historic?
I feel pressure on the one hand, but we lean on the stories. This is, I feel like I'm part of the tradition of this city and the tradition of our community in this city. Carlotta Bass was the first African American to run for council in 1947. She ran in the 8th Council District, and she ran on a platform of rent control and tenant protections. So this is a long story. And I'm just a part of it. You asked about what was great about Morehouse. One of our professors, Professor Fluker, would always say when he was trying to get us to focus or to learn something or to dial into a lesson, he'd always say, "When it's your turn on the stage of history, will you know your lines?"
Ooh, that's good.
And that that's certainly how I feel. The way you know your lines is you've been paying attention to the play the whole time. And our story is a great one that I've been engaged of, and I'm happy to have a sentence or two in that story.
What did your family say when you found out?
A lot of my family said congratulations. A lot of my family said we knew it. And a lot of my family said look out.
I like that, look out. I mean, it does come with even more responsibility. So how do you balance, or how do you plan to balance the needs of CD8 as well as the needs of being council president?
Well, as one of the things I jokingly say about the council presidency is you become the council member for the other 14 council members, and so you have that as a job, in addition to the 270,000 people that you represent in your district. And so I knew we were going to pursue this, so we made sure we built a great team that can facilitate both of those activities in a way that we perform at a high level in both.
So shifting back to the process, how does the council vote for a president?
Well, vote for council presidency is called by a member or members of the community of the council. In this case, council members Heather Hutt and Katie Yaroslavsky put forward a motion to call for a vote. It was seconded by 5 other members of the council. Mm-hmm. And so once that motion's put forward, the clerk comes into the council. She takes the gavel from the sitting president, and they do a roll call. Mm-hmm. And they go, first letter in the alphabet, who do you vote for? And the person has to stand up and say your name. And, that was a really moving and touching point for me, because there's incredible ideological diversity on the council. Mm-hmm. So, there are any number of people on the council that could have been for this. There are people who disagree with me on enough things to say, you know what, nice guy, but I want somebody else. And the council elected unity. And I think that is a harbinger of things to come, and certainly what we want to build around.
Mm-hmm. How long did the process take?
Yeah, it's took a few days in a formal way. In an informal way, the conversation has been going on for months.
Okay. When you become council president, what are some of the first issues you want to tackle?
Obviously we have to work on homelessness. One of the exciting things about the council is now you have a majority of the council who has gotten elected during the time when homelessness was the main issue. Mm-hmm. So everybody's got programming that they want to do. You have other members who've been watching it for a period of time, and they've kind of learned what works, what doesn't work. They've been through the bumps in the road. And so the council, I think, really can put forward and scale solutions. So we have a lot of members doing great things in their area, right? Mm-hmm. And so, whether it's Councilwoman Rodriguez with RVs in the Valley, or, another part of the city with shared housing, and another part of the city is doing really good on tiny homes. All of those solutions need to be scaled so that they're accessible all over the city, and that we're doing them all over the city, and we really move the needle on street homelessness in particular, but homelessness in general.
Mm-hmm. What does that mean, scaled?
Scaled means if we have a program that works in this one district or this one neighborhood, how do we get it to go from a neighborhood to a community, from a community to a district, from a district to a region, from a region to the city?
Mm-hmm. Okay. When you become council president, we will have a Black council president and a Black mayor. That is incredible. So what do you think that tells the rest of the nation about Los Angeles, and that we have problems, but we have embraced diversity here?
Well, I think it says a lot about the city of Los Angeles. I can't sit here and tell you I'm not proud that I live in the city that did that, and I get to be a part of it to boot. So that's exciting, and it sends the message around the world that we can move past this. And so there is the story of Juneteenth. Fast forward, we're in the situation that we have here in Los Angeles.
Mm-hmm. What are you most looking forward to when you become council president?
I'm most looking forward to unleashing the members of the council. It's such incredible talent and energy and passion for the city on that council, and I think with just a little bit of rearranging and highlighting, we have the opportunity to do big things. Voters have sent us really high quality people to the council, and I want to make sure those folks shine and that folks know what they are doing on behalf of our city.
Mm-hmm. We do have some really pressing issues here. We've had quite a bit of crime on the metro system, and of course homelessness. How do you allay fears with business owners about crime, these smash and grab crimes and whatnot?
Well, I think one of the things that's important to me when you're dealing with crime, especially as something as emotional as crime, the I've had a house broken into once, and the things that were stolen were not that difficult to replace, but your peace of mind, that was the thing that you couldn't get over, and that was the most difficult to do, and your lack of security. So I think when you're dealing with an issue like that, it's really important to focus on things that solve the problem. And so I think, whether it's smash and grab, whether it's street takeovers, whether it's sort of quality of life crimes on Metro and then violent crimes on Metro, we have to go for the solutions that work. So whether that's ambassadors on Metro, whether that's a different kind of police force, in my district, I noticed that the police don't necessarily get on the bus or get on the train. They're kind of at the various stops. Maybe that's not the way to go. Maybe we need to look at another alternative. Certainly with the smash and grab, we got to look at retail better and differently. The fact that people can organize themselves completely under the radar without having a physical meeting. Back in the day, if you wanted to pull off something that involved 30 people, you had to have a meeting. And, we could follow you to the meeting and we could see what you were doing and somebody would talk. Now you can do all of that on social media. And so that requires new sets of protections for retail and lots of other businesses.
It's interesting that you mentioned the police are not getting on the Metro trains and the buses. I have a friend who takes the Metro, and he said he was accosted or assaulted. And he told me that he doesn't ever see the police getting on the train. So how do we, I know, you have, as a council, it's not really your full authority, but how do we change that?
Well, we change it by changing it. The Metro Board of Directors has the ability to determine who gets hired to do policing and security on the trains. They have the ability to decide what the terms are. We have a situation now where we have different police departments doing different parts of the Metro system, and they have different ways of doing it. So in some police departments, they go on the train, and other ones they don't. You have the sheriffs and LAPD. I think that there needs to be something uniform. And certainly going to be working with our members of the board, Metro Board, which is our Mayor Cam Bass. She's appointed Director Jackie DuPont Walker, and then there are two members of the Council, Katie Yaroslavsky and Council President Paul Kokorian.
With the Olympics coming to LA, do you think there will be an impact on CD8?
I think there's going to be an impact on every inch of space in Southern California. The World Cup, which actually, quiet as it's kept, is bigger than the Olympics in terms of the amount of people and the amount of travel that will happen in and out of the city. That'll happen first. We're going to have another Super Bowl. We're going to have an NBA All-Star game. And then we're going to have the Olympics, which is, as the mayor says, the equivalent of having 17 Super Bowls a day for 2 weeks.
Wow.
So it's going to affect all of us, every inch of the city. And there are two things. I think one, transportation and just the logistics will be tough, but it is an incredible business opportunity. We have so many great small businesses and small family-owned enterprises or groups of people who come on with enterprises, and it could be something as simple as you get a contract to supply toiletries to one of the stadiums. That could be the difference between your business being a small business and being a big business. And so there's going to be literally hundreds of opportunities like that for procurement, for services, for involvement that can change forever the face of small businesses here in Southern California.
And now would be the time for people to start thinking about that. So how do they get more information?
Well, the city certainly has programming. You can, again, you can contact us on our website and we can direct you to the appropriate department. Our local chambers of commerce, the LA Chamber of Commerce, the various ethnic chambers of commerce are all dialed in, and they've been dialed in for some time. So it isn't like people are just starting. People have been working on this for some time. Also, we're going to have procurement systems. The city of LA, the county of LA, all the other small cities, we're going to have procurement systems that cater to small businesses, right? So we're not going to have a situation where to apply takes so much work, you have to be a big company in order to do it. We're designing it in a way where, one, you can start earlier, and two, it does not take that much manpower to actually submit a proposal.
And we'll be getting this information out to the community.
It's already in motion. It's getting out to the community. It's getting out to small businesses, small business organizations. This is what I would say to everybody involved. If you got a small business or a club and you want to be involved, get into an organization. Don't operate on your own and wait for somebody to come to your doorstep. Join the local chamber in your community. Join the big Los Angeles chamber. If there's an ethnic chamber, a Latino chamber, African American chamber, join that. If there's a women's business group, join that. Join groups, because that's how information really spreads and how you get to have your finger on the pulse of activities.
I like that. And if people want more information, can they go to your district office's website?
They can go to our website. They can call our offices, and we will direct. And again, folks should know there are specific people in the city that are just working on this issue.
So a lot of help is.
A lot of help is there. We have tried to make the path and to create the doorway. All we need is for people to walk through it.
I love that. Walk through the door.
That's right.
I want to ask you one question that is heavy on my mind. With the 99-cent stores closing, I've talked to some people in the community who are very low income, and they would get produce at a cheap rate there. So where can people go? What can they do?
Well, I think definitely folks, this is a place where it's really important to talk to your neighbors, because you can find out what everybody's doing, because everybody's got the same problem. The person living next door to you, it doesn't live any closer to food than you do. So talking to your neighbors is key. There might be carpools to markets and other parts of the place. When I was at Community Coalition, we used to do this. We would take buses to places that had healthier foods. So people had hypertension, and even when there were markets there, they weren't necessarily selling the healthiest food. So I think working together with your neighbors is key, but also we got to pay close attention to our systems, right? So we have two major systems here in Southern California, one of the wealthiest places in the world, two major systems that are basically failing large parts of the population: our food delivery system and our housing system. There's no reason. We grow more rice in California than any other place outside of China. We grow more potatoes in California than they grow in Idaho. We produce as many oranges. So we're producing the food, we're doing the work. We just do a poor job of making sure it gets out to our people.
To the people. And certainly there are food banks out there. And the city, I know, partners with some different groups, so that information is online as well.
That's right.
Before you go, I want to ask you about Destination Crenshaw, a big project in your district. What's the status?
Well, we're excited. The statues are being placed as we speak now. We've stopped giving out dates, because every time we give out a date, something happens. And so we said, we're just going to finish it, and then we're going to announce the opening. So. But again, we're very excited. The work is moving. We have acres and acres of new park space that'll be there. We're putting up dozens of 3D art. The murals are taking shape now. If you're driving north on Crenshaw before you get to Venice, you'll get to see the big mother and child piece on the 12-story Good Shepherd building. We call it the Good Shepherd mural. So it's coming together. We hope to finish by the end of this calendar year, but we can't be sure. If as soon as I put out a date, there'll be an earthquake or a rainstorm or something that'll slow us up.
Or a rare hurricane.
That's right. It happens. It all happens.
Well, Councilmember Marqueece Harris-Dawson, happy Juneteenth to you.
Thank you. Happy Juneteenth to you.
Thank you so much. And thank you so much for coming in to discuss Juneteenth and your journey to becoming council president.
Thank you so much. It's always good to be here.
Well, thank you so much for watching, all of you out there, and have a great day.